Happy Saturday, everyone. It is time for UFC Live 4 Lock right here on Awesemo.com. Of course, I am Jason Foy. As always, here on Awesemo's Live 4 Lock, I am joined by Pete Rogers Jr. I guess I should say when I'm actually here on a Saturday during the football season, but I am here on a Saturday with the Bucks playing on Monday nights. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. Talk about PrizePicks later on in the show, but Pete, let's get right into it. Obviously, the major news of today so far was about just about 90 minutes or so ago, Terrence McKinney goes on his Twitter account and says, folks, sorry, one of my cornermen has tested positive for COVID. My fight is off the card. So I think we all went there and we start going to our lineups, whether you had, 150 entries, 20 entries, or one entry, you're all sitting there going, okay, how am I adjusting my lineup? And I will tell you, it makes roster construction very interesting today, Pete.
It does. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it as always. Excited for another fight card. I'll tell you, I almost went really big today, and I probably would have had 90% of that fight, that McKinney and Ziem fight. I just viewed that fight as the way that McKinney could possibly bring out the fight in Ziem. He's going to push a high pace. He's an early finisher, has wrestling in his back pocket. Ziem working at Sanford MMA. I just really liked that fight, and I really liked the environment of it. I thought like it could be DFS friendly. And of course, of all the fights, we have that one scrapped. So now we're here scrambling, trying to figure out which ways to pivot. I think that Miesha Tate would garner a lot of ownership to begin with, maybe even a little bit more now since McKinney at 8,400 is out. But it also makes that mid-range, I feel like you're going to start to see a little bit more popularity within like a Kyung Ho Kang or something like that, within a quick pivot to solve a lot of people's lineups.
Yeah, I still don't find myself wanting to get to that matchup just merely because of, I believe it's a fight that's going to play out over 15 minutes. I mean, obviously, if you're Kung Ho Kang, you want to stay away from making this a jiu-jitsu matchup. But I mean, look here, I found myself looking at those under 8,000 options. And, you mentioned about, I mean, this is a fight card that has, especially when we look at the betting odds, I mean, so many close fights. These betting lines have gone all over the place this week. I mean, we talked about it on Thursday on the strategy show, and all you got to do is look at the salaries on DraftKings and FanDuel, and you can see the differences. I mean, you can look at a fight, like Rafa Garcia and Natan Levy, where Rafa Garcia is 7,700 on DraftKings, 8,500 for Natan Levy. But then you go over to FanDuel, because FanDuel didn't release salaries so later on in the week, is Rafa Garcia is $17, where Natan Levy is $13. Like I had someone ask me about Natan Levy, if I knew about him. And this is a guy that I've had a chance to get to know over, say, about the past year or so. Trains out of Syndicate MMA there. You do have, obviously, JoJo Wood is on this card. She trains out of Syndicate as well. So, John Wood doing multiple duties here today. And to me, it's like Natan Levy, if you want to go that route, more on the FanDuel side than say the DraftKings side, is your thought to me has got to be he's going to get this fight to the ground. If you tell me this fight plays out on the feet, I think it's Rafa Garcia's fight to lose.
See, I think I'll disagree with you on that point. It depends on the range, right? Because at a long distance range, you could definitely have a Natan Levy shine where he's able to incorporate some tricky kicks and keep him at the end of his punches. If Rafa Garcia marches him down and gets in that boxing range / phone booth type of fight, that's where I do agree with you, where that does seem to play out in Rafa Garcia's favor, make it ugly, dirty box him a little bit, maybe even incorporate some takedowns, test the takedown defense of Natan Levy. Natan Levy started to really rely on his grappling a little bit more than what I think that, a lot of the media members and everybody that we were kind of expecting, because he's so flashy on social media and everything, where he has some tricky dynamic kicks. If it's at long distance, I definitely think that he could go into his toolbox and try to incorporate some of those techniques. But Rafa Garcia, excellent value play this week. It made me actually, without Terrence McKinney, it made me actually take some shots on Natan Levy, even though I'm not too comfortable with him in that matchup. I just view that fight where if I look at Rafa Garcia's previous performance, where he was walked down and on the back foot numerous times, he was a different fighter against Grutzmacher than when he was marching forward. So, the two of those fighters, they could clash, and it could result in some DFS friendly scoring. So I'm leaning Rafa Garcia pretty heavily, but it did make me get a little bit of Natan Levy.
Well, I think this is one of those cards where we have a lot of close fights. Someone had asked me earlier in Discord about, what's going to be the upset play of this. And you have so many close fights on the betting side of it. I look at that Durden fight, I think, that may be a fight potentially to look at upset there, but you've seen a lot of money's been coming in Tucker Lutz this week. The betting public is lighting Tucker Lutz in that situation. We talk about the strategy with that fight is if the finish is going to come in that fight, I truly believe it's going to be later on in the fight. Obviously with Pat Sabatini, you do like the jiu-jitsu aspect of it, potentially get to the ground. Like when I'm thinking about fights that I've got a target to put in my lineups today, it starts me with the main event of Tate and Caitlin Vieira. One of the things that is going to be interesting to see is kind of how does Caitlin Vieira try to conserve some energy early on in this fight, because we have seen her wear down as the fights go on.
Yeah, and how does she deal with resistance? How does she deal with Miesha Tate possibly stuffing some takedown attempts, probably having some sharper sequences of striking? Miesha Tate's hands look excellent last camp, and I know she's really, really working on this camp as well. She looks shredded, so I have a ton of the main event. I just think that the way that the fight is going to go, it's going to be hard for me to avoid it, especially now without the McKinney and Farziem. You're kind of strapped for options in that mid range, and I really want to get to the main event, honestly. And I'm favoring Miesha Tate significantly. I do think that Caitlin Vieira is a pretty decent value play, of course, because she can definitely win some early rounds and even win the fight if she incorporates the correct game plan. But yeah, the loss of the McKinney Ziem fight is going to be crucial to where you pivot. Like where you pivot is going to determine everything for these GPPs, especially. And yeah, it makes me really look at that Cody Durden fight. Like I like Durden a lot. And yeah, I know he's a little bit more expensive, but traditionally an American wrestler against a Chinese fighter, it's just an interesting stylistic clash that could be a kryptonite type of situation.
Yeah, this is just, like to go on the main event is all week. I have liked Miesha Tate. I remember when I started doing my prep for my podcast that comes out on Wednesdays, and I saw the betting odds, and of course DFS. I don't even look at the DFS salaries until we do the show on Thursday.
Yeah, same.
And my first thought was kind of like, wow, that's kind of interesting on the betting odds. I just would have thought Tate would be the favorite, and you've just kind of seen all week that this fight has pretty much been a pick 'em fight. And I started making these phone calls to people's opinion that I value in this industry, coaches and fighters and, various people. And I'm just like, okay, all right, am I seeing something I'm not seeing? And I'm talking to a lot of people who have the same thoughts I have. I'm like, so are we all missing something here?
Yeah, I view this fight card as a completely volatile fight card. So if you just look at things as black and white and you kind of want to look at statistics or underdogs coming through, this is a week where I honestly could see tons of underdogs coming through, and it wouldn't really surprise me. It just views like it's not riddled with like extremely high level competition. There's a lot of mediocre plays on this card, and with a lot of mediocre plays results in a lot of variance. And yeah, if you like an underdog, if you like leaving a ton of salary on the table, this is definitely your week. And I think the more that you leave on the table now without, McKinney and Ziem, you're definitely going to separate yourself from the pack. And it's probably looking like a nice week to do so.
I would tell you before the show, I was putting together some single entries, and one of my single entries, I left 1,100 on the table. It's look, if it comes through, look, I'm going to be unique, and that's, and look, that's, I think, but it's natural, like, especially when you're hand building lineups, that you're always like, oh man, you get to that final spot. You're like, oh, I've got 8,800 to spend, but sometimes, leaving that money on the table can help you get unique a little bit here. Of course, if you do have any questions, line those up right now in the chat. We'll get to those as we do go on. Of course, be sure to give Awesemo a follow right here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel so you keep up to date with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and so much more. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell so you get that alert when a show is live here on the channel. Of course, the PrizePicks NFL show will be coming up after us. And if you're not an Awesemo Plus member and you want to check out what's behind the paywall, today's free premium tools and data are week 11 player rankings, NBA player rankings, UFC pro plays, and NHL player projection. Of course, if you're playing NBA DFS tonight, you got to check out Adam's deeper dive article, which is always free over there at awesemo.com. It's a go-to article for me each and every day as I'm developing my lineups. And then, of course, I head over to the Awesemo Odds Shopper. I start looking at those props of what I want to play there. I've told Pete, just saying, they're pretty damn good.
Yeah, they are. They are. And I absolutely love all the content that we provide. Adam, Josh, everybody's work really is extremely helpful and definitely results in a ton of us cashing. So, yeah, if you guys have questions in chat, definitely throw them in chat. Hit that like button if you can for us. Get us over 100 likes. We appreciate it. We're here to help you guys out leading up until lock. And yeah, don't be shy.
Of course, you have any questions there in terms of these fights? One of the popular fighters it seemed like I've gotten some questions on over the last 24 hours. So is Goodinez taking on Lookboonmee. And I would say I was telling Pete right before the show, we're always looking at that. Who is that favorite on the card that just is not going to perform the way they want? And as I continue to think about Goodinez, the one thing that just I can't get out of my mind, Pete, is the fact of when she goes for takedown, it's the same takedown over and over again. There's no variance. There's no variety of her attempts to get to the ground. I guess that's probably what concerns me the most about her.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I like what you're saying there. I think that a varied wrestling attack can definitely throw off a striker. It can throw off a ton of grapplers. So never mind somebody who's polished in basically the striking realm. And that is definitely Lookboonmee. This matchup's interesting because you have a traditional Thai boxer in Loma who has basically become a Thai boxer in MMA who is efficient at striking and keeping it upright on the feet for the most part. She has been taken down in 3 of her 4 fights in the UFC, once out of 3 attempts against Albu, once out of 4 attempts from Angela Hill, and once out of 4 attempts against Jinyu Fry. Now, on paper, that looks like she has pretty solid takedown defense. Let me tell you, she has not faced a wrestler like Goodinez who will attempt takedowns over 10 times in a fight. So I'm interested here. I am siding with Lookboonmee in the matchup. But just for reference, Goodinez went 2 of 15 in her previous performance against Luana Carolina, who is definitely a taller, statured fighter, pretty big for that division. And then against in her previous performance against Silvana Gomez Juarez, went 5 of 6. Against Jessica Penne, Goodinez went 3 of 9. All I'm saying is that you're going to have a fighter in Goodinez who, I agree with you, does not have the most appeal, because I do think that her entire skill set is somewhat lacking when she cannot get the takedown. She will be outstruck on the feet, and I worry about Loma really incorporating a heavy low kick or a calf kick that could definitely immobilize her. But if Goodinez attempts 10 plus takedowns, Jason, you throw enough stuff at the wall, something's got to stick sometimes. And this could be a situation where she could take Lookboonmee to Takedown City. So I actually ended up getting a little bit of Goodinez, but I really like the underdog here in Lookboonmee.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high price tag. You got to pay for Loopy at 8,800 over on DraftKings, and over on FanDuel. She is $20. People talking about the chat how pizza, as Santos says, rocking the New England attire over there. I just had to look on my phone. It's only about a 30-degree difference between where you're at and where I'm at.
Man, yeah, it's like I told you before the show. I didn't ask to be born in New England. If I could have said, I'd like to be born in Hawaii or something, but hey, they planted my flag here, and that's, I'm here. So until something happens, I'm in New England. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, you are there. Samuel, one of the questions I've seen this come up a couple of times in chat is about pivots of where are we pivoting away, because obviously McKinney and Ziam was going to be a fight that we all wanted to get to because you knew the volatility of the fight. I mean, in all reality, that was probably a boom bust type play here today.
For sure.
There's always that one fight in the card we look at and say, hey, that's a boom bust where, someone's going to get 100 points or the other might only get you 10. And, he was talking about, Cody Durden potentially being that pivot there. There are, there's some fighters that I want to get to, but then there's some fighters like I'm concerned about getting to. I'm concerned about getting to a Luana Pinheiro at 9,300. And probably my biggest reason for that is in terms of those 9,000 options, I'd rather get to a Sean Soriano. Yes, I have concerns about his takedown defense. Everyone knows about Sean Soriano's takedown defense. I'd rather get to an Adrian Yanez. The only question you have in that one is Davey Grant is very durable. He's a durable guy. He's never been finished via strikes. Thalia Santos, I think JoJo's the toughness of her. I think that'll go 15 minutes. I just don't know if that 9,200 pays off there. And like I've been looking at that Chiesa Brady fight, and I'm just like, I think Brady's going to take it, but if you told me about Chiesa pulls the upset, I would not be shocked at all.
Yeah, agree with you completely. To kind of circle back and start with the pivots, I would say naturally the most common thing that will occur is 2 spots above and 2 spots below the player that is out will be the most likely ways to pivot, obviously. So if you're looking at Terrence McKinney, above him is Cody Dern and Natan Levy. I do think that both of those fighters could garner slightly more ownership because of that. Below McKinney is Miesha Tate and Kyung Ho Kang. I actually like those 2 options. Kyung Ho Kang, I understand that we're not too high on that fight for DFS wise, because we do understand that Hanayaya will shoot a takedown attempt, and it's okay with being on his back and trying to do deep half sweeps and all these different tricky scenarios and tricky situations, which could not result in DFS production. Okay, we get that. If we want to look at Faraziem, above is Caitlin Vieira, which I think she will garner some significant ownership regardless, because it's a main event spot and she's priced absolutely appropriately. In case this does go 5 rounds, people might even stack the main event. That would definitely not surprise him. Below Faraziem is Rafa Garcia and Aori Kilang. I think Rafa Garcia might be one of the most popular underdogs on the entire slate, and even more so now because of the absence of Faraziem as an underdog. As far as like underdogs, like in long shot positions that probably are a little undervalued, definitely Michael Chiesa. I don't like this stylistic fight for Michael Chiesa. I do think that Michael Chiesa can get rocked, hurt in multiple times, but more often than not, it's that he leaves his neck out there and kind of gets rattled mentally from time to time. And yes, he's a great wrestler, but what happens if his wrestling is negated in a matchup against Sean Brady, in a sequence, in a transition? He leaves his neck out there. You have Sean Brady, who's unbelievable on the ground, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Daniel Gracie, Renzo Gracie Philly. If he captures that neck of Michael Chiesa, you could see Michael Chiesa panic tap again. But with all that being said, Michael Chiesa is tricky, man, right? Like, this is a massive step up in competition for Sean Brady. Like, let's kind of put it all to side and say that Michael Chiesa has fought some top-notch opponents, but has he fought a true wrestler that can somewhat negate his, wrestling offense? And that's where I think the problems occur from Michael Chiesa. Rafael Dos Anjos, unbelievable name that Michael Chiesa went right through, but Rafael Dos Anjos' kryptonite has always been strong wrestlers that don't care. And as I'm just saying, for value plays, if you want to just look at this cut and dry, black and white, Michael Chiesa, one of the best on the slate.
Yeah, someone asked about stacking the main event. Personally, I would not go there. And this is something we brought up. We kind of briefly talked about on the strategy show, but when you look at Miesha Tate, you firmly expect that she is going to be going for the takedowns in this matchup. And you look at Caitlin Vieira and you say, since her fight against, outside of Sarah McMahon, who has really pushed the takedown against her? Miesha Tate talked about this this week, and she goes, I'm not going to really take the Sijara Eubanks fight into consideration. She goes, Sijara's a 125er. She's not a 35er. You look at Caitlin Vieira's opponents in the UFC: Kelly Frozholtz, Ashley Evans Smith, Sarah McMahon, Kat Zingano, Irina Aldana, Sijara Eubanks, Yuna Kunitskaya. So you look at it, outside of Sarah McMahon, she really hasn't faced someone who's going to be with that pressure that Tate can bring in terms of this one. That's why, I wouldn't stack this fight. I think you go one way or the other. Because I think there's other options to get to in terms of that. But if you want to do that in cash, I don't think it's an awful idea.
Yeah, I don't have a stack going today. I think that it will become a little bit more common now because of that crucial fight that we lost. I do think that Caitlin Vieira does have some value, just given how heavy she can be on top and how she can blanket and negate her opponents at times. Her cardio is definitely an issue. Her striking defense is an issue. I think the way that Miesha Tate looked in her previous performance, it's going to be one of two things, right? It's a small sample size and we overestimated her abilities, or this is the true Miesha Tate. I'm motivated, I'm focused, and I'm trying to get back to the title. If that's the case, and that's kind of what I'm expecting, I think Miesha Tate runs through Caitlin Vieira and has somewhat of the easiest return to a title fight in recent memory.
Of course, if you want to get access to our ownership projections over at Awesemo.com, you got to sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass, which is for $29.95, gives you full access to all the great premium data and tools we have over at Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, lineup builder, and so much more. Of course, if you're only interested in looking for an MMA DFS package, you can sign up for the Awesemo MMA weekly package for $8.95. And good to let you know, as today is the final day for a promo we got going on for our college basketball DFS projections. Your first week is only $5 when you use the promo code Coach K, all caps, one word. That's Coach K for your first week of Awesemo Plus college basketball for only $5. This offer does expire today, so take advantage of that, of all the great tools we have over there. Matt does a great job with our college basketball projections. You got to check that out over there. And of course, if you got that full pass, you got to check out that top fighter tool to help develop your lineups here today for UFC Vegas number 43. Of course, no UFC next weekend for Thanksgiving weekend. So our next card will be December the 4th, which will be the Font Aldo card, which Pete, you gotta have to take the Northeast blinders off that week. Of course, I gotta take my blinders off too, because I do have a good relationship with the New England cartel there. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, that's gonna be a hell of a card. I can't wait for that. DraftKings just sent out a message about the, on Twitter, of the Terrence McKinney Farazim fight. Like, I wonder how many people are gonna miss that. Probably not too many, because it still have about 40 minutes or so, but I'm keeping my eyes peeled to Twitter just in case we lose something.
Look, we've all been there at some point in some DFS sport. Maybe it's that basketball guy gets ruled out at the very last minute, and
God.
You're already out maybe a few cocktails deep, and you're just not even paying attention to your lineups. That may have happened to me at some point. Just may have happened at some point in my life.
Yeah.
And then you check the live pass, you go, son of a,
yeah, right.
Damn. We've all been there.
Of course we have. Of course we have. All right, Jason. Now that we lost that Terrence McKinney and Farazim fight, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You still think it's going to be a low finish night? Even more so now that fight's out, right?
All right. So let's look at it here. Okay. Well, let's just say higher probability of a decision as opposed to stoppage. Main event, I think we got a good chance that thing's going 25 minutes.
Really?
I think if a stoppage comes, it's Miesha Tate in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Chiesa Brady, I think, is going 15 minutes.
Okay.
Unless the poor IQ of Chiesa leaves his neck open, which we've seen him do that in the past.
Yep.
Haya Kang, I think, is going decision.
Okay.
Santos Wood, you might as well say yes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's I'd be very surprised if that got finished.
I'd be surprised Grant Yanez goes to the judges. I think this fight ends at some point.
I actually made, not most of my lineups, but a good majority of my lineups that this ends up going 15 minutes. So I was okay with getting away from it, because I feel like Giannis won't be reckless because he knows he can't be reckless. And Grant is so wild and powerful that I think Giannis will have to respect it. I can actually see if Grant incorporates some wrestling, that this gets stretched out just a little bit. We got to remember, these are 135 pounders. So
that would be the smart game plan. I mean, look, I think that the boxing of Yanez is so crisp. And I've heard a lot of people bring this up about Adrian Yanez, not just this week, but over the past, couple of months. Adrian Yanez boxing, who does it remind you of?
Off the top of my head,
Jorge Masvidal. Think about it. Adrian Yanez ain't throwing.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's not throwing home runs.
So
he's just got to keep hit. And that, to me, I think there's similarities there. But Davey Grant's never been finished in his career, so that's something to kind of think about there. Sabatini Lutz, if a stoppage comes, I think it's in the 3rd round.
Okay.
I think it's more likely on the Sabatini side.
Okay, so if we're really predicting low amount of finishes, you got to get those finishes correct in your lineups, and you need these decision fights obviously correct. You need 6 correct, fighters, of course. But if these go the distance, you have to start really trying to think a little contrarian of how certain things and certain fights and sequences could go.
Okay, to go on that point,
right?
The first 3 fights of the night may be the fights you have to really have a big thought process on, because you look at those 3 fights, I could definitely see they all end via finish.
Yeah, I like that. I used to make lineups sometimes where I would treat the preliminary card like a separate card that from the main card. And I would try to create lineups like just to get a little different. So I'm not creating the same things. Obviously using, our fantasy cruncher tool over on awesemo.com definitely helps with that, especially if you set groups and all that. But I like hand building as well, especially for fights, and targeting preliminary bouts, and then possibly making lineups with just the main card makes a ton of sense some weekends.
Better underdog, Tucker Lutz or Rafa Garcia?
Rafa Garcia.
I think particularly in GPPs, I think Garcia is the clear answer there.
For me, it's Rafa Garcia. 14 fights versus Natan Levy 6. Tucker Lutz, 12-1. Pat Sabatini 15-3. You recognize that everybody's kind of hating on Pat Sabatini, and I think it's possibly because he got somewhat dropped against Jamal Emmers. But if you go back to his CFFC days, the guy's the complete package with, I would say, some underwhelming striking. That's definitely his weak point. His striking is his weak point. His wrestling is strong. His jiu-jitsu is incredible. He tries to be a little tricky on the feet, but you could definitely see against some tough matchups where a fighter can keep it upright, his striking could someday get exposed.
Okay. Next up, Josh says, Pete, is 4 dogs too many for a GPP? Man, that
I mean, no, but I would probably cap out most lineups at 3. I was traditionally like 1 or 2 underdogs probably come through week to week. This seems like a tricky week. I could see 3, 4, maybe for a limited amount of your lineups. Obviously, it depends on the tournament size.
Andrew saying JoJo 7K best value outside of Rafa Garcia.
I was trying to talk myself into getting some JoJo. I really was, Jason. I'm like, okay, let's think about this and let's break this down a little bit more. Joanne Wood. It's going to take me some time to really wrap my head around that name change. Okay, there was a time where, remember, she was possibly vying for a title shot at one point.
No.
She was
took a fight instead of waiting for the title shot.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, she was next in line, and then Jennifer Maia really just came through and just totally destroyed that glimmer of a title shot. Got a nice rebound win against Jessica. I lost a split decision to Lauren Murphy, if she presses you against the cage, can definitely win rounds and has done it to numerous people. My issue is if Lauren Murphy, who's very, very strong, continue against the cage and win rounds, it's a little bit of MMA math, which is not what I like to do. But Tyler Santos, I would imagine, is just equally as strong and has better takedowns than Lauren Murphy. So I think that she could incorporate a similar game plan. It's just really hard for me to wrap my head around that. Joanne Calderwood, is she just overall mediocre in today's MMA? Because her striking's always been great. She's somewhat matchup dependent. Would you happen to agree with that?
I would. I mean, the one thing I think, if when you're thinking about this fight, and you was mentioned a Lauren Murphy fight, I brought up the stats for that one.
Yeah.
JoJo landed 153 strikes in that one. She stopped 5 of 6 takedown attempts. 123 strikes landed. Of course, when Lauren Murphy was able to get the fight to the ground, she was able to keep it there. I mean, look, I think the volume aspect is why you do like JoJo as a underdog spot there. But like, I think when we're talking about that range of, okay, would I rather get to a JoJo than a Sam Hughes? Yes. Would I like to, spend $200 more and get to Shailene? I just don't know if he's got the takedowns.
Yeah.
Because you can't, I can't go into that Soriano fight thinking he's going to lose a striking matchup.
No, hell no. I would also like to think that, losing to Joshua Kulabau, who Kulabau ends up looking like a decent fighter within the division. I think Sean Soriano has all the skills. In the UFC, he has not really put it together. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I like Sean Soriano. I'm going to be rooting heavily for him, but he has not put it together. He's had one round, he dominates. Next round, he drops. I don't know if it's a mental thing, if it's a fatigue issue, if it's a stylistic matchup issue. Obviously, for whatever reason, or whoever his manager is, he's fought people that basically negate his style by taking him to the mat. And we've known that all over the years. If you can take Sean Soriano to the mat, you can win rounds and possibly get him out of there. Bruce Boyington, right?
Yep.
Bruce Boyington was able to take Sean Soriano down and end up working towards a submission finish. And I think that he has some underrated grappling, but not UFC grappling. He's predominantly a striker. So this is what I'm saying. This is an interesting matchup. And if Sean Soriano wasn't a part of Sanford MMA, what would we be doing?
I mean, I would still kind of feel the same way I do.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
You know, I don't think it really changes anything. I mean, if you told me he was that team alpha male, I think my thought process would be the same with Sean Soriano. I mean, look, there's a clear path of how you fight Sean Soriano. It's just like, to me, I feel like this is a quote unquote setup fight by the UFC to get Sean Soriano win. I mean, look, you go back to the Yagos fight, that first round, he pieced apart Christos Yagos.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Yagos got to fight to the ground and ultimately got that submission. By the way, speaking of Sean Soriano, we talked about the DFS lines, but I got to talk about his line over at PrizePicks, which of course is a sponsor of this show. And I'm looking at that total fight time of 12.5. Give me the under on that one.
I like that.
I think that number is a little too high over there at PrizePicks. Of course, PrizePicks has got their daily prop-based contest. Be sure to use that promo code Awesemo for $100 first match deposit bonus. No sharks, optimizer, mass entries. 5-player lines can net you up to 10 times your entry fee. Use your knowledge of multiple sports with cross sports entries. Download in the App Store, on Google Play, or play at prizepicks.com. And of course, use those free player prop tools we have over at awesemo.com. I will tell you the other one that kind of stuck out to me, Pete, was Caitlin Vieira takedowns 2.5. I like the under on that one as well.
Yeah, it's close, right? Because Miesha Tate can get taken down. We have seen that in the past. I know that she seems to be better, but the way that Caitlin Vieira really she wraps up the legs by basically reaping the legs with her legs. So it's not like a traditional double. She steps around the legs and trips the legs, and I think that could definitely catch Miesha Tate off guard. I'd probably book her for 2 takedowns. The third one's interesting. Does it happen or does it not? Does Miesha Tate make adjustments to Caitlin Vieira really have any gas to continue doing so? That'll have to depend on the tide of the fight. I will lean no as well, so I'll say less than the 2.5. Of
course, be sure to check out PrizePicks. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. Use that promo code Awesemo. I really do like play with the total fight time props. So it's one thing I really love about. I love over there at PrizePicks. Mentioned about get back to the questions here. Of course, if you do have any questions, line those up right now in the chat. Wesley mentioned about a FanDuel question. So, what's the best play on FanDuel, and how should I go about on my single lineup build? So, I was doing a single lineup build over on FanDuel a little bit earlier. I mean, look, I think in terms of obviously with FanDuel, it's always who am I going to put the MVP in, and this is one of those weeks, Pete, that I just don't feel like there's like, okay, let me go there because, I mean, look, the main event, if Miesha Tate's going to win this thing, I think it's about her getting takedowns, control time, strikes on the ground, whatnot. So at $17, I like her there. Caitlin Vieira at $19, I don't mind getting there, but I just think there's a little bit better values there. I mentioned about Yanez, mentioned about Sean Soriano as well. I mean, Soriano, like if I said, tell me your top 5 plays today, I think you could probably label off 1, 2, 3. But once you get the 4 and 5, I feel like you're going, oh man, this is getting tough.
Who's your number 1 pound for pound on the card that you think, like you put him in and you have relative confidence with? Because I feel like you and I are completely different.
Ooh.
You ready for this?
All right.
Cody Durden.
Wow, I'm not there with you on that one.
Really?
Look, his wrestling ability, but you tell me number one, who am I going with the most?
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm just saying his price point.
Like take
well, Misha Tate's number one for
okay.
me. Misha Tate's number one.
Okay, even if I take price point out of it, okay, Durden, do I put in my top 5? I probably do. But like it's like there's you look at some of these bigger favorites and you go, okay, they should win. There's a reason they're that big of a favorite, but there's also like, okay, this is how they can lose a fight. Like really love Adrian Yanez, but I'm like, he's going up against a guy that is very durable. And I just wonder what happens if Davey Grant does come in with a smart game plan and says, I'm not going to sit there and have a kickboxing matchup with Adrian Yanez and attempts to go with the wrestling. So there's a little bit of concern there. Like if I was going to put my pool of who I'm most confident with, I would put Soriano in there. I'd put Yanez in there. I would put Tate in there. I think they'd probably be my top 3.
Tate's my number 1. My number 2. Let me look at my exposures. It's an ugly card, but we're here. We're here to help you guys. I would probably say after Tate, I might say Cody Durden's my second or third option. I'm not kidding. Sean Soriano's right there for me. Tyler Santos, I think it's not an easy win. It's just for DFS production. She's not my favorite for DFS production.
Also we got asked about, MVP and cheap plays over at FanDuel. I'll give you a cheap play on FanDuel that does intrigue me potentially.
Okay.
Lookboonmee.
I love Loma. I personally love Loma. I come from a striking background. I have a slight bias, but whenever I provide a breakdown for you guys, I set that bias aside. I analyze both sides. I lay it out for you guys to decide. I like Loma, but I have concerns about Lupita Goodinez's takedown numbers of how she's not just going to shoot 5. If she goes in there and shoots 5, Loma wins this. I'd put all the money in my bank on that Loma wins. If she goes in there and shoots 10 plus times, I get worried because Loma does not know how to chain wrestle and Lupita Goodinez does. So you can defend the first one, but what happens about when, Lupi chains the second and third one together?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I look at cheap plays over at FanDuel.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned about Sam Hughes earlier this week when we were talking about the DraftKings side of
dart
things.
Throw.
Yeah, complete dart throw. Like I look at someone like a Tucker Lutz at $12. I think there's value there. JoJo at $8. I like the value there. Michael Chiesa $12. I mean, there's some value plays over on the FanDuel side of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about MVPs for me, I'm looking at Misha Tate. I'm looking at Adrian Yanez. I'm looking at Sean Soriano would be my top 3 MVPs that I'm looking at personally.
Yeah, I like Tate. Soriano. I mean, I'm basically with you on all of that. So it's tough to disagree with you on that. The FanDuel pricing's a little off in comparison to DraftKings, but it's more accurate for, I would say, the betting lines now, right? Like we have some spots on DraftKings that if you compare into the betting lines now, it's just not accurate. It's not in line with it. I like playing on both platforms. I favor DraftKings, everything about DraftKings, but I'm going to create a FanDuel one, possibly right now.
Yeah, we'll try to get much to the question we can here. We got about 15 minutes here left in this show. Of course, coming up after us is the PrizePicks NFL show. They'll be talking about the NFL side over there at PrizePicks for tomorrow's week number 11 of the NFL. So I always have to think about that. What week of the NFL season it is?
I know it's flying by, man.
Yeah, it has definitely flown by here. It's sorry, Thanksgiving week. By the way, I was doing some fire interviews yesterday, Pete. Go-to item on Thanksgiving is for you.
What?
Go-to item on Thanksgiving. What is it?
Mashed potatoes.
Really? That did not come up. That did not come up yesterday in my 4 fighter interviews.
Bro, come on. Mashed potatoes and gravy? Let us know in chat what's your favorite Thanksgiving item or food, I think that mashed potatoes and gravy, like I can't get enough of that. Pumpkin
pie for me.
See, I'm not a pie guy. You're a pie guy. Yeah, no, I'm not a pie guy. I don't know if anybody listening is. I'm not. I mean, not really. I'd much rather eat like 10 plates of turkey.
Joseph Holmes, who just got signed by the UFC. He's on my show next week.
Yeah.
Apparently his family is a big pie and cake family. I never heard this one. They do red velvet cake for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's where's he from? Kentucky? Something weird?
No, he's from Texas.
Oh, well, that's why. I mean, I can't really relate to people from Texas.
Another fighter trained by James Krause that's now in the UFC. James Krause now has 17 fighters in the UFC.
Jason, reach out to James Krause. We got to get me.
we can get you to glory. We can get you to glory. That's not a problem.
Let's go. Hey, I'm down to go to glory, and I got some possible options coming up in for the new year. So we'll have to see. But yeah, half the chat saying they're with me. Some people saying stuffing. Some people are saying I don't care. I hate gravy. What the hell is wrong with you? You hate gravy.
I'm indifferent.
I mean, it's not like a necessity, but it's like a Thanksgiving. You're going to eat turkey without gravy. You're going to have the most dry mouth in the world. You need something. You need I don't know. But man, I can't even believe it's Thanksgiving already. We're going to make some money tonight. We're going to make money all week. If you're not able to sports bet, I feel sorry for you. If you are, watch the fights and live bet the fights. I'm telling you, you'll probably make more money doing that than DFS, but DFS is fun because the prizes are, you can win $100,000, right? That's why we're here.
Okay.
That's what we want.
I mean, Adrian Yanez potentially is a potential great live betting. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I said, I do wonder, did Randy Costa put the film out on the proper game plan to beat Adrian Yanez?
Yeah. Bro, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, okay, I know Randy. He'll kick you in the head 27 times. Okay.
In a minute.
Right. He's like, what's that movie where the foot, you know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You think of whatever you love the most in your life. That is the way Randy loves head kicks.
Yes, exactly. But don't mess with the Zohan. I think that's what that is. Okay. Where he just prefers kicking everybody and kicking everything. That's what Randy does. And he's not a primary boxer. So when I saw him piece up Yanez, I had to pause for a second. And I said, okay, am I too high on Yanez? Because we've seen Davey Grant knock out people that I didn't think he was going to knock out. And he's so loopy. If he's able to tag Yanez, I think that, Davey Grant is one of the best pound for pound value plays on the slate. He just doesn't look like a fighter. You watch him on the scale, looks old. You watch him fight. You watch him fight. It's like not the most skilled guy. Wings, loopy shots. Oh, in a matter of time, somebody's going to make him pay for making all these mistakes. Are they? Because it's continuously working. So play Davey Grant as a long shot. Definitely can work.
Dave mentions that we got to play a shot game for every time I say, hey, look, first off, Pete couldn't play a shot game because here's why. I'd be doing the show myself about 15 minutes in because Pete be done.
That is true. Hey, I'll tell you what, my girl, she made some spiked cider, warm cider. It's in the crock pot upstairs. Might have to have me some of that with these fights. But I agree with you. And I definitely think that would be a very difficult game because you do say that a lot.
Well, I will tell you why I first started in radio.
Yeah.
After those first couple of shows, my program director goes, Jason, you gotta stop saying let's be honest with you. He goes, so you lying to me the rest of the show? I was like, all right, good point. You take it in.
Yeah. Okay. Admittedly, when we're on camera and we're talking about all this stuff, you don't realize some of the same patterns that you're having on air. So I like to go back and I like to listen to all of our shows to notice, okay, I'm trying to be better every show. So I don't say the same wrong thing all the time or, preface it by the same way. So, we're always trying to be better. We appreciate you guys.
A lot of people are talking about, the floor of JoJo Wood in this one.
Yes.
Agreed. And obviously looking at even in a loss of potentially what she could bring your lineup at 7,000 or $8 over on FanDuel.
I was trying to convince myself, man, because, okay, how about this? She plays the Matador. Tyler Santos is the bull. She's able to keep her out on the outside. Can she pull off the victory, Jason?
I think if Wood wins, it's via decision. And I think it's just a lot of volume.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you go back and you look at her
Yeah.
box scores, when she is able to throw 100 plus strikes or land 100 plus strikes, she can steal a fight.
Mhm.
Now, what happens if Tyler Santos gets irritated with movement, is, not there to really pin her against the cage? It's an interesting call. And on a day like today, where we're not really expecting too many finishes, could a striking affair, which is traditionally not a part of an optimal lineup, given the DraftKings scoring, could it make its way into a lineup given JoJo Calderwood's extreme discount pricing?
Raw DK points, Yanez or Sabatini?
That's a Giannis, but Sabatini's a great leverage play because I feel like everybody's hating on him this week. I know Renzo Gracie Philly. I know how they train. The guy's a monster, but his striking is not up to Tucker Lutz's par. It's just, how does he deal with it? I totally relate to the Tucker Lutz call because it's ugly down there and you have to try to find some value. And a lot of people don't want to roster Davey Grant, who looks old as hell. And, you're going up against a hot young prospect in Adrian Yanez. I get it. So the Tucker Lutz call definitely makes sense. But yeah, I'll say Giannis.
As Pete mentioned a little earlier, want to win that money here today to start as most people are taking this week off for Thanksgiving. Of course, you got to be rocking that Awesemo avatar and DFS profile. So go into that Awesemo Hall of Fame. Tweet your wins at Awesemo HOF. Win a free month of Also plus Platinum. Of course, you can only win that once per calendar year. Of course, you see some of the screenshots that'll be popping up on the screen here. Jordan taking down first place, winning $100,000 over there on NBA. Kudos to you with what you're able to do there with that lineup. Also, Brett taking down first place in a mini max over there over on DraftKings. Taking down first place in NBA contest. Jack taking down third in the NHL contest over there on DraftKings. Got to check out all the great NHL coverage that we have over here at Awesemo.com. Also, News Guy, give a little shout out to Awesemo Odds and the Odd Shopper tool, helping him cash in there on a parlay there with the player props tool I mentioned to take that in there. Also doing a little two-legger there. So you got to check out, get into that Awesemo Hall of Fame. Love to see those screenshots once the fights are over. Santos or Pinheiro? I'd rather go the Pinheiro route just based on the opponent.
Yeah, agreed. Santos fighting arguably the biggest name she's ever fought. And I just don't know if it really results in excellent scoring. Whereas if Pinheiro wins, her pace and pressure and aggressiveness could lead to a huge score. I'm level with the field with Pinheiro. I am. I'm not against it. It's just a lot of unknowns. That first score is absolutely ballooned because of a very exciting round one, and then a DQ win. It was like the best situation possible for her. But yeah, how does she look in rounds 2 and 3?
Of course, if you do have any questions, be sure to line those up right now in the chat. Mention question coming in our Discord channel. Santos or Durden over on FanDuel. So Cody Durden is $21 over on FanDuel, and Thalia Santos is $22.
You're hating on my boy Durden. I think.
How am I hating on him?
You said
if he's going to win, he's going to win, it's via wrestling. There's no question about it.
What happens when he wrestles him?
Well, that's the question.
No, what do you think happens?
He should be able to take him down. He should.
I think so. I think he takes him down, and I think he can pound him out. I think we could see,
But okay, let's go back to that Chris Gutierrez fight.
Bro, it's Chris Gutierrez.
I know. But what concerns you is once he kind of gets on his back, what he kind of do. That's one of the concerns I have about him is being active on the ground and not kind of playing a safe route.
No, I agree with you. But it's like Chris Gutierrez in my mind, right, is like here. This guy at his proper weight class is a lot below Chris Gutierrez. And how he took a somewhat veteran of Gutierrez down with relative ease and dominated him for majority of that fight until he gassed out and got his leg destroyed. I don't know, man. I like Durden a lot today. He's got a, hey, if you need something to really push you over the edge and kind of get you leaning in Durden's direction, he's got a wrestling tattoo. He's gonna wrestle till the wheels fall off. And yeah, I like him here.
I want to say the opponent, I want to say he's fought as high as 45, I want to say, if I recall correctly. And
Yeah.
now he's made his way down 125 pounds.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is an ugly card. He's probably my third most exposed fighter. Miesha Tate's my number one. I like her a lot. If she loses, obviously I'm not going to do well today.
I mean, look, after what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, I think there's kind of that natural, like, lack of enthusiasm for this card after what we've seen from the pay-per-view and then
we've
with
been
Holloway.
spoiled.
And yeah.
We've been spoiled. This is the COVID era card. You know what I mean? Like, you remember when we were doing shows all throughout the beginning, and this is the normal type of stuff we were dealing with.
Back then, we were really dealing with who's not going to make it to the cage on fight day. Top 3 fighters under 8K who have the best shot to win today.
Best shot to win. So I'm going to say that we're not going to worry about DFS production because that's how I interpret that. Okay. I'm going to go with Rafa Garcia, number 1.
That's my number 1 too.
Loma Lookboonmee, number 2.
That's not my number 2.
Okay. And my number 3 would be Tucker Lutz, I suppose.
Lutz would be my number 2. My number 3, I think, would be Lookboonmee.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I found myself with a lot of combinations of Tucker Lutz and Rafa Garcia on DraftKings, just because it made roster construction easier.
Let me tell you, if Rafa loses, you're talking about Natan Levy in one of the best leverage spots on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
And just given the way that roster construction will be, anybody that avoids that, or if that fight for some reason is a stinker, I kind of view that as like a priority fight now, what we have.
Of course, we just got a couple minutes here left in the show. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. As of course, we got great shows for you each and every day. We got a ton of shows coming up here the rest of the day, NFL coverage, NBA coverage. So be sure to keep it locked here to awesemo.com. Mention just kind of seeing this over Discord. Personally, I would not stack the main event, but I understand why you could stack the main event here.
Yeah, I thought about getting sneaky with it, but no, I'm gonna. Okay, it is women's MMA though, right? Like women's MMA gets stretched out a lot more than a lot of, male MMA fights. I just really like what I saw from Miesha Tate, and I just hate the cardio that I saw from Ketlin Vieira.
We'll try to get some rapid fire in here before we get out of here. Does Brady get the stoppage? I say if it is, it's via submission.
I say yes.
Top fighters on DraftKings regardless of salary.
Top what?
Top fighters on DraftKings regardless of salary.
Miesha Tate, Soriano, Goodinez. Durden.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, I would go Tate, Goodinez. Ooh, third one. It might be Brady. I think the ceiling's really high for Sean Brady.
Me too.
There was a time where just UFC wasn't in love with Sean Brady because there was a lot of times on a regional scene. He used that grappling, and the reality is UFC matchmakers, they love guys who will stand there and throw them bungalows.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. Value under 8,400 on DraftKings.
Kyung Ho Kang, Miesha Tate, Rafa Garcia. The reason I like Kyung Ho Kang is if you can get top position and you incorporate some ground and pound that I have seen in the past, you could give a BJJ, specialist some fits. Every time you punch a black belt, they become a lesser degree. So you punch them once, they become a brown belt, and so on and so forth. I think that Kyung Ho Kang with the correct game plan could possibly win from top position.
Corey, I appreciate you in the super chat. Pete, he's going on the other side of the Durden fight. He says, okay, can you talk me off the ledge on DraftKings of going against Cody Durden?
Oh, so he's going with a Richie Lang. No, man, it's okay because he possesses some strong striking. He likes to knee his opponents. And he's hit a lot of people with some flying knees and knocked out a lot of people that have been trying to take him down. It's just the level of competition over in Asia does not really translate the best over in America, and especially against the Kryptonite, which I believe would be a strong wrestler. So I think that Cody Durden still is my pick pretty heavily, but I can't fault you for finding that underdog.
And of course, the card's going to start here 5 minutes from now. Hopefully, we have a great night of winnings over here with Team Awesemo. Of course, be sure to keep it locked here at awesemo.com. Coming up next is the PrizePicks NFL show. So those guys will break down tomorrow's NFL slate over there on PrizePick. Me and P will be back in about a week and a half or so from now. Of course, no UFC next week. So be sure to keep it locked here. All the great coverage you have here at awesemo.com. Hopefully, everyone has a great day. And we'd love to see you. Tag us on Twitter with those winning lineups. That's going to do it for the Awesemo MMA Live for Lock show. We will talk to you in a week and a half now as we'll get you ready for Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. Have a good day, everybody.